Get it rolling. Well, cool. Yeah, first of all, Coach, appreciate you hopping on here, man, and everybody else as well. If you guys have any questions at all, throw them in the chat. Anything that you want answered, anything that maybe just sparks your mind, good, bad, and different, throw it in the chat, man. But other than that, I'm Austin Byler, founder of Major League University. Dean Williams, I'm helping co-host this podcast, Champion School Podcast. Been running it for a while, but we decided through this whole shutdown deal that we'll go live and get some guests on here and be able to just provide more value during this time. And Coach Murphy, once again, appreciate you popping on here, man. I'm former Notre Dame University coach, Arizona State. I remember seeing you when I was growing up here in AZ, watching you guys beat up on the Wildcats a little bit. So it's good to see you in person, man, and be able to just get to pick your brain about some culture and mindset and just kind of get
I don't know why I can't hear you, man.
Can't hear me? Are you good? Can you hear me now?
I'm so sorry I can't hear you.
Oh, no. You're good. It might be it might have been your audio settings might have switched to the car.
I can hear like faint, and I got my phone all the way up, but it says it says mute, share content, start video. I did that. Unmute. Somebody's kept me off.
Is there a speaker in the upper left?
We can hear you just fine. You guys still got nothing, Coach?
God darn it.
Yeah, I might have to reset it or just something in the audio settings. I don't know how it looks on the phone.
Still no sound, Coach?
Oh, there he goes. Connecting to audio.
Nothing. I see you guys talking, but I don't have nothing.
Still nothing?
Good way to get out of this thing, isn't it?
It's a hot start, man. We're rolling in.
I don't know if you guys take that the right way, but I really love to do it. I just can't. Chat one, raise, disconnect audio.
Yeah, is it pairing with your vehicle? Because he can't hear me.
I'm getting out, and then I'm getting back in.
Yeah, I might be connecting to the.
I'll text him and tell at least do that while everybody's patiently waiting. Let's see here.
Abe, how's the weather in Nevada?
A little hotter now, but it's beautiful. So those Reno nights for the summer, you know.
Oh, miss Reno. See if this works.
It says connecting to audio. Now he's muted.
I'm going to mute him. One sec.
Got me? Got me?
We got you. You got us?
Yeah.
Nice.
Perfect.
Let's go.
I turned my car off, so now it's 107 here. It's fine.
We'll keep you in the hot box for a minute.
All right. It's all right.
Cool, man. Well, let's get going. Like I said, Coach, appreciate you hopping on here, man. Let's start off with one of your best stories going through coaching, like your coaching career, man. What's one of the best stories that you got? And this is a great opening already. We've already kicked it off hot. Like, so what can you possibly do to top it, man?
All right. Well, I was just telling a story. I don't know if it's one to top this off, but we had a kid by the name of Travis Buck. Do you remember Travis?
Yeah.
Played in the big leagues. You know what I mean? And Travis was a great player for us. We're rolling pretty good. I think it was 05. We're playing at UCLA. We're up 10-2. Eric Abrams on the mound. They got a right-handed catcher up with the bases loaded, no outs. 10-2 in like the 5th inning. Anything can happen, except at that point they weren't going to beat us. But regardless, anything could have happened. 10-2. This kid DeVore, something like that, right-handed hitter, hits an absolute blast to right. If you've been to Jackie Robinson Stadium, there's nothing really behind the right field fence. Beautiful park, beautiful place. Anyways, he hits this mammo grand slam. It isn't even close. Travis, he was one for flair and just a great athlete. And he was digging himself because he knew he'd moved himself into the first round, his draft status. But anyways, and we were rolling along pretty good. And sure enough, he jumps up on the fence, kind of like his waist over the top of the fence, and just hangs there like there's any chance he could catch it. The ball was clearly 30 feet past him. And we're in the first base dugout, and so we could see it real clear. And the ball hits the ground 30 feet past the home run and hits a dumpster on one hop and ricochets right back to Travis's glove. And there was such a delay that anyone that's watching the game knows there's no chance he caught it. But he stayed up there on the fence. He came back over the fence and presented the ball kind of like a joke, like, I caught it, And the umpire looked at each other and they called him out. Well, meanwhile, everybody had circled the bases. So we end up coming in and getting a triple play. Instead of being 10-6, no outs in the 5th, at their place. And it's now 10-2 triple play. Everybody gets thrown out of the game. Travis comes running in with a smirk on his face. And I looked at him straight in the eye. Like, he knew he better tell me the truth. I said, Travis, did you catch that ball? He said, absolutely not. And it was sheepishly, you're like, wow, should we just tell the umpire, hey, he didn't catch it? Because, again, we're probably going to win the game anyway, but it just happened so fast. For 2 years, or for 2 years, anytime Travis was involved in anything, you could hear people yelling, cheater, cheater,
Yeah.
And people didn't believe that really happened. They said that couldn't have happened in a game. It really happened. And the fans at UCLA were climbing on the fence. It was amazing how mad they were, and rightfully so. So anything can happen.
Yeah, how were the fans there? Because it had to have been a packed game. It had to have been heated. Like, what are they saying? Are they just booing the umpire? Are they throwing stuff on the field? Like, what's going on?
I think it was game 3, and we had kind of beaten them twice. So I think that they were already kind of edgy and irritated, and probably blaming their coach, to be honest with you, for the losses. That's how it goes, right? And they just there was only probably 400 people there, to be honest, but it wasn't a great era for UCLA right around then, but they still had always good players and always were tough to beat no matter what. Really tough to beat. And it was just a weird play. And Travis made it, he didn't take it too serious, and he didn't try to do anything wrong. It was a bad call by the umpire, like you get a lot of times. So, but it was in our favor for a change. I could also tell you the one where we got walked off in Fullerton by a balk in 05, the same year. Might have paid us back. I don't know. But walk-off balk on an intentional walk. We were intentionally walking, the bases loaded with a winning run at third base, intentionally walking, and they said he didn't come to a complete stop when he was throwing this third pitch of an intentional walk. So he can go against you or he can go for you.
You never know what's going to happen, right?
Remember them all with a smile.
Yeah. Looking back, it's a little easier now looking back on it.
No question. No question.
You've obviously had a very historical coaching career back in ASU. I mean, I remember the ASU days since I grew up here in ASU, got to watch you guys play a lot and got to see you guys compete in a lot of really, really talented teams. You got to coach a little bit now in the big leagues and doing your thing there. Like, what kind of led you to coaching? What's your story and background getting into coaching?
Yeah.
How'd you get into it?
It was really my college coach, Steve Traylor at Florida Atlantic. He recognized I did okay as a college player, and but he said to me, hey Murph, I know you want to be drafted. I know you want to play baseball, but you'd really love coaching. You really would. You've played all the sports. You got kind of a feel for it. And sure enough, I was offered a job right out of college. Now I went and played minor league baseball, but I was coaching at the same time. I was actually coaching college football. And yeah, really, he was really the big inspiration. I think I always knew I wanted to. I did, as much as I really didn't get along with the coaches a lot as a player, and was kind of incorrigible and immature. I just felt like, this profession spoke to me. And then when he mentioned it, when I was a senior in college, and then I just kind of started doing it at a small college level, and then I just, I really just embraced it, and I still do today. Now I love it more than ever now, because the challenges of going from Division III to Division I to the minor leagues to the big leagues in the last 6 years. I mean, it's not just a way up. It's total construction. We're all under construction. We got to keep developing, changing, growing, reevaluating. Asking yourself the tough questions, and you want to be effective at some point. The accolades and the achievements and that kind of stuff that you kind of snicker at now. It's not about you, and the achievements, the way they're awarded in this profession, is not really indicative of the job you're doing all the time. So, yeah, I love the profession. I love it. It's a life work. It's there's a lot of vocational type work out there, and I think this is that for me. I can't see myself doing anything else. I miss aspects of the college game. I miss aspects of the minor league game, to be honest with you. But the big leagues is where I'm at right now, and unless they're playing on the moon, it's the best players in the world.
Hey, Coach, just because you alluded to people development, and that we're all kind of in construction. Talk a little bit more about not necessarily the X's and O's part of the game, of the development of people, why that's important to you, why that matters to you, some of your kind of, mindset about doing that.
Yeah, I'm certain. We've all seen it. We've seen it in other sports, and you can see it in baseball. When you don't have your head with you, when you don't have the right mentality, when you've let things affect you mid-game or pre-game or whatever, when you've been affected emotionally, and your mentality's not right, you're not going to play as good. You're not. And I think coaching has a role to understand that, and understand how to help guys stay consistent, help them understand what's important, what to focus on, what your intent is, and just open that communication so they can understand this is what's going to lead to consistent results. This is what's going to lead to the surviving in the game, and not controlling your emotions is going to hurt you. And I think the mentality, the physical part we work on, we've got the greatest level of understanding now, the kinetic chain and the biomechanics of this game. We have the data like never before. It's all important, and it's helping us teach. It's helping us teach the mechanics of the game. It's helping us teach, how the body moves, how to organize your body at the plate or on the mound, and, how to make it work effective for you. We're doing a ton on pitch development, swing development, but, you got to have coconut development, man. Your head's got to be right. And everybody, and being with the best players in the world, you realize what makes some guys great and what keeps guys from getting there. And most of it's mentality, And I believe that wholeheartedly. And I think it's just tough for the general managers to get involved in that discussion, because there's no really way to quantify it. And that's kind of how they pay and live their life. But it will affect what that player's rating is. If he was a 45 in your model and you can get him to play at a 48, that'll show up over time. And then the following year, they'll get paid as a 48. If again, that's the business of baseball. But
let me ask. Yeah, no, let me ask you, this is a follow-up to that. And just because I know there's a lot of coaches on here listening in, and they're obviously coaches at various levels. You talked about developing people, and just my own personal relationship with you. I know how important relationships are. So what might be a thought or two for these guys about, developing relationships, the importance of that, so that you can get to being able to, coach the head and the heart and that side of the game.
I think it's important. I guess I built a reputation over time just because I was kind of dumb, and I didn't know what I was doing. The wins and losses were coming, and I had a lot of wins, and people thought I was good, and my ego started to creep in, and you all of a sudden think you know what you're doing, and then it hits you on the head. You kind of don't, especially when you have your own children. It's this is somebody's little kid, and you get a little more aware of how to speak to them. But I think building the relationship first and foremost is just strictly out of being genuine and out of love. And even tough guy, hardball coaches, you got to do it out of love. And I think some coaches try to present their power and try to present their position as, you better listen to me. And I think players are kind of turned off by that. I think there's a humility in it. They don't want to hear your story as a coach. They don't want to hear what you've done. They don't care. I had a guy say to me the other day, hey, as a college coach, say to me, we run this just like pro ball. It's like, and I know he didn't mean it like that, but he didn't realize he was talking to a 25-year college coach too. And running it like pro ball doesn't necessarily speak to me as a positive thing. Running it like a genuine, loving, developmental program that puts the players first and helps them understand how to compete at the highest level does not mean you're not tough on them. Doesn't mean you're not, but being mindful, like a lot of when you say that they treat them like we run this like a pro thing, a lot of them is, hey, we just let them play. Well, I don't want that. I don't want to be involved in the program. We just let them play. I want to not let them play in terms of, I want to get them right so they can play like they've never played before. If I want them to play like they used to play, what's the sense of coaching? Just roll the balls out and play. We can do that. And we can do that in the rec program, Anyways, I think it's really important to start with just really a genuine friendship and genuine respectful love, and try to figure out how he learns, figure out what speaks to him, and do a lot more listening, ask him questions, do some background work. How does this kid do things? What he's been really good at, what he's struggled with. And then give it time. Don't make quick decisions on kids. You don't know kids until you know.
Let me ask you as a follow-up to that. Something Austin and I were kicking around, just hearing from different coaches and kind of the coaching this generation, and how have kids change and that kind of thing. So again, I'm curious on that one, because you've got you got your own son who's college age. You've been around that age. You've coached the college level, the pro level. Again, you got a lot of coaches on here. What might be some thoughts on, just your thoughts when you hear that? Because I know you hear that comment from time to time.
Yeah, I do all the time. I mean, I don't think you adjust who you are at that very moment. I think you work real hard in the off season. You work real hard, maybe on a daily basis, to just be mindful and how kids are impacted differently. And I think you be mindful of what they're going through, what makes them tick. That's not new. I mean, that's not every kid. We can't couple every kid into the same bucket. But I think that oftentimes, it's just an easy thing because we don't want to change. We don't want to work at changing. I've been doing it this way 30 years, and this worked for this guy, and he's in the big leagues, so it's going to work for this guy. No, that's not being your best self, in my opinion. A lot of that information is true, but maybe a comment here or there, or a different way of phrasing it, the kid will totally understand what you mean. And you can still call yourself old school if that's what appeals to you. That doesn't appeal to me. And when people say to me, "Oh, Murph, I know you're old school," like, no, then you don't know me at all. Old school. What does that mean? Like, win a lot? I don't know. I don't know what that is, but that's kind of all I care about. Like, building winning programs, and winning doesn't always mean coming out on the scoreboard every night, but winning meaning, this is a program you're going to get better. You're going to get challenged. There's going to be high standards, and we're not going to put limits on ourselves.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned a really good point about acting out of love. And I know Coach Stefano in here with San Francisco State, that was one of his big things of, hey, I'm going to love my athletes. I'm going to share that with them, that I love them. I'm going to tell them that every single day so that they know that I care about them. And I think that's huge as an athlete to know that your coaches care. Now, you talk about the winning culture and building a winning mentality and a winning program. What are some of the keys that you use throughout college to win nearly 1,000 games? Like, what are some of the keys to developing a winning culture?
What do you mean nearly 1,000? What are you talking about?
Or
nearly
over 1,000. Over 1,000.
I don't understand nearly. I mean, it's either 1,000 or it's not.
Over 1,000.
That's a joke, by the way. I used to always make fun of coaches that counted their wins, and my assistant one year, one of my last years, like, "Hey, coach, you're on track to be the winningest coach all time in college baseball." I said, "That's because I got there so young, and you just watch. I'll screw it up." Like you don't look up at you don't count your chips at the poker table. Anyway, sure enough, I'm not in college anymore. So, yeah, I think that, what was your question about winning?
Yeah, how do you develop a winning culture?
Yeah, the wrong information. Developing a winning culture. Again, it starts with standards, and it starts with getting input from the guys you have. If you're at a new program or whatever, I mean, it's easy when you've been in a program a long time to, if you've done it consistently, those older kids will take the lead. I remember a kid named Merrill Kelly pitched for me. It was my last fall before ASU and I we parted ways. That last fall, I had a kid, Merrill Kelly. I think he's in the big leagues now, the Diamondbacks. Anyways, this kid comes from Yavapai, and he tells me in recruiting, he says, "Murph, one thing I got to tell you, man, I know you guys will wear pants up and everything, but I wear my pants down and blousey and whatever." And then the old me, or the me that hadn't went through construction, would have said, "There's no way you're coming here. You're going to play with high side. That's the way we do it. This is ASU." And then the me that knew that the juniors and seniors would handle it the way they handle it, I said, "Sure, Merrill, do whatever you want." He's like, "Okay, I just want to make that clear. I'm not going to wear those high pants like that. I got bad calves. I'm not doing that." Anyway, sure enough, Merrill came out and he had the blousey pants. And the equipment guy said to me, he goes, "Murph, are you really letting this guy do it?" I said, "Hey, just do it." And he came out there, and then 2 days later, he came out with the high pants. I'm like, "Merrill, I love those blousey pants. What we got going?" He's like, he looked at me like, "Yeah, you know what's going on." I mean, it's like, the program's in the right direction when those guys are handling their business just because they get it, and I kind of knew Merrill was going to be the right kid because he got it, and I think that's the ticket, to make sure that you're setting standards that the players believe in so much, they uphold so much for you that you don't have to do that kind of work. Mm-hmm. And it's a program when it's not just led by one person, it's led by a lot. So I think that really speaks to it, in that get those standards, and don't force it either. You got to build this momentum. You got to build this momentum with those standards and those baseball principles that you believe in, and you can't be afraid to take a step backward in order to go forward. You're not going to make every guy just like you want them to. They're not going to all like you. You show me a team that all likes you. You show me a coach that's liked by all his fellow coaches, and I'll bet you that he hasn't had the most success building players. It's not the way it is. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. You're going to have to make kids disappointed. You're going to have to make kids respond like they never have. And there's no secret formula, and you make a ton of mistakes. I'm here to tell you, I think I got everybody on this call on mistakes. I think I do. I'd be willing to bet that. I mean, I know I'm critical, and be honest with you, it doesn't bother me, because I'm gonna try to respond to those mistakes and not make them twice.
Now, go ahead, Dean.
No, I was just going to say, Coach, just because you alluded to the guys on the team taking ownership of the pants thing. And I've heard you talk about this, but I think it'd be beneficial for some of the guys on the call to hear this too. And I know we got Coach Green up at Washington State's on the call. And I remember one time
Coach Green's on the call.
Oh yeah.
Hey, he's a guy. I'm gonna tell you right now. I don't know the guy. I think I've met him once or twice. I don't know, but I want to tell you something. He ain't backing off. You know what I mean? Like, he ain't backing off. You're coming for an easy day at the ballpark. You're gonna take a piece of you somewhere. I like it.
Yeah, no, that's he jumped on. But I just you were talking about ownership and the players taking ownership of a thing. And I know one of the things you and I have talked about was at ASU, the after an at bat, the fist bump. And,
right.
and not necessarily that part of it, but I remember you kind of explained it to me how important it was that the players, it wasn't a thing that you told them to do. It was their thing. So maybe talk a little bit about that for some of the coaches on here.
There's something about it that, when you do something that's selfless, when you do, we know baseball is a very individual game in a lot of ways. And we try to build team every way we can. We got all the bells and whistles to build team and the team building stuff. But at the core of it, is really giving a damn about the guy next to you and holding yourself to a high standard. So with that being said, I think it's pertinent, like that they can come up with, or you can maybe, align them with some things that kind of represent their connection. So for me, one of the things we brought to the Brewers is, like, we talk a lot about connection, staying connected. Now you're talking about guys I think Bronny's making $20 million this year. That's a good monthly check, you got Kane and you got Yelich, and they're all different. They're all in different stages of their career, but they're connected. They're respectful. They're connected. And we talk a lot about connection, and the responsibility of connection. And as you commit to it, it gets thicker and thicker and stronger and stronger. And to be connected to someone else means you have to have an opening in yourself so they can slip through and connect to you. So you have to be open for growth. So you can't be ticked or avoid or allow your teammate to go in a hole. So we had this thing that Dean said I didn't come up with, but I think I did, Dean. But we'll say the players came up with it. Who cares? But so after every at bat, good, bad, or indifferent, they had to fist bump the on deck hitter. Just walk by, make eye contact, most important, and fist bump, and just a little dap, and that was it. Just to say, hey, we're connected, and this connection thing's serious. So guy'd fly out to left field and round first, and have to run back through where the on deck hitter was and bump. Umpires get pissed. Like, hey, come on, we're holding up the game. But they knew it was kind of coming, and it was direct. And there's probably a time or two when it didn't make sense. You make, I don't know, you make an out at third, and the kid, there's a delayed call and a little questioning of the call or whatever, and the runner's out, and he walks into the dugout, and the on-deck hitter's already at home plate. So it's not like it's the end of the world if it doesn't happen. But we just made a little connection to make sure that we fist bumped each other, look each other in the eye, and say, hey, I'm with you, man. Go get him. And we gave them like examples of things they could say. It's like, hey, you get him, man. Your turn. Or whatever it is, like, hey, it's your turn. I'm passing the baton. And I think it's really effective. I think that kind of stuff is effective. It shows that, hey, we're committed. And you can be close to somebody and connected to somebody that you're not even friends with, or you don't even know. You don't share much in common. Freshman and a senior. But it's genuine too. It is required, or it is thought to be something they commit to. It's something they commit to. That's the part, Dean, really that we probably should have mentioned, is that
right.
That it isn't just mandated by the coaches. I might have thought of it, but they bought it and they wanted to do it, so we did it. And just like the enthusiasm circle, we did it because they bought it, not because I told them to do it. You showed them how to do it, and they were all in. They're like, this is awesome. I love the way this makes me feel. Did I lose you guys again?
No, we got you. We just lost the video for just a second, so I can still hear you.
Yeah.
I'm declining this. There's a guy calling me. I'm declining. Are you with me?
There you are.
Gotcha. Well,
okay.
You talk a lot about.
Now I lost. You know what?
You got the audio again?
I lost the audio again.
Oh no!
You guys got some cheap studio, man. You got to charge some money or something. Get some.
Got to pay the upgrade.
Okay, talk louder because I can't hear a thing you're saying.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit. Go ahead.
A little bit. Well, you talk a lot about the connection, coach, as far as like connecting with your athletes. And in baseball, I think there's a lot of ego, and sometimes it's tough for us to break through that shell, whether it's a coach or an athlete. And now you're at the big league level where just being in some of those locker rooms, seeing the lack of vulnerability and the lack of connection. How do you encourage your athletes to be vulnerable with each other to build that connection in those relationships?
Yeah, I think in the big leagues you really can evaluate by walking through the locker room, because guys are on their own schedule. The locker room is a place that's open to so many people. It's not as private as people think. The media is in there for a time. There's a lot of other people in our organization in there. There's players that are not even on the roster sometimes that are still in there. So again, I think that you can't really look for it as easily in a major league locker room, but the connection, counts. Our manager does a great job of talking about it in a real sincere way. Doesn't force it, but explains it in a way as how it can be helpful for them. See, so one of the things in connection is you don't let a player that's going 0 for 24 and he's in a hole and he wants to isolate. That's what happens. These guys got so much pressure on them. These guys put so much pressure on themselves. These guys they're doing it for food on the table. They're doing it for survival in the big leagues, and you can't let them isolate and go down in a hole and be by themselves. They need that connection. So you got to be willing to go get them, and sometimes that's tough to do because you got stuff on your own plate. So we're constantly encouraging that. We're looking for that. Hey, man, Thames needs a little of your time, man. He's down. He takes that a little harder. What are you talking about? He's getting $5 million and he's this. What? No. It ain't about any of that, man. It's about letting him know that you're connected to him, you care about him, and that like his problems you see, and you just reminded him, man, come on, stay with us. You don't have to like him. You don't even have to give him advice. Just remind him, man, come on. You got a responsibility to stay together. Stay with us. You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to, there's a time and place to take it to a different level. Hey, let's go to dinner. No, I don't feel like it. Well, hey, we're going to dinner tonight. But the big leagues make it, believe me, it's more important there than anywhere. It's simpler to put together in college, I believe, or in high school. But I think it's difficult in the big league sometimes. But believe me, it's real. It's real.
I know, Coach, over your career too, you've certainly taken a chance on certain players that were, risk behavior wise, risk attitude wise, and for some reason you were able to make it work. What's some of your thoughts on that? Because I know some of these coaches have had guys on their team before that were maybe super talented, but wondering how to make it work. And the other night I was watching the Last Dance, and they made the comment about Dennis Rodman, how you can't put a saddle on a Mustang, and how Phil Jackson made it work with him and the team made it work. So how did you make that work sometimes? What's your thoughts around that one?
Yeah. Well, you got to pick your battles. Now, sometimes the kids that are hardest to love need the love most, So I can't imagine Dennis Rodman being all that fun, to coach. But and he's going to tell you to go piss off if it's, if he wants to. But I think that's the guy that needs love the most. That's where you're going to, hey, I got something special here. Because first of all, the guy's pretty talented. And the guy can do some things and is willing to do some things, rebound and play defense and cause havoc. That if I can figure out a way to get him, not like totally on our page, because there's no such thing. It's on his good page, and be able to function within our group in an effective way. I mean, I think it's worth doing. Make sure he's good. Make sure can be impactful, and make sure he has some level, of awareness. But don't try to control everybody, like everybody look the same or everybody, like if that's what they want, if the players decide, hey, we're all going to wear nose rings or something, then that's on them. I wouldn't take all that much serious, that too serious. I think it's more about the guys that are toughest to love need the love the most. And I would look for that, especially in players that are talented, that are troubled guys out the gate. You can tell this guy. That's when you're taking over a new program and you got a senior who's like never got along with anybody and whatever. And you might be able to squeeze some good innings out of them and help them understand how to relate to people. but you got to show he's already thinking that nobody likes him. He's already thinking that people see him as different. You got to show him acceptance and love and give him a chance. Set this, give him some things he can do and give him some ways that the players can accept him. If you got a bunch of judgmental players, then you already know that you got some work to do, because none of us deserve that. We're all different and deserve to be judged, by others, but like not to the point where the team's saying, "Oh, this guy doesn't belong. This guy doesn't belong." Whatever. Like, hey, look, let's talk about it. And it may get to a point where, hey, this doesn't help us. But if the guy can help you, and that's not compromising. That's not just saying, like, well, he's a good player, we let him do what he wants. Hell no. But there's ways to complement it, and there's ways to make it work for your whole club so the team will embrace him. And once the team embraces him, that person usually emerges into a leader in his own right, in his own way, and he understands his parameters. Hey, I can't step over this line. He ends up growing a lot, and the team grows a lot because they see how that guy can work out. And we could have ran him off, but if we ran him off, we might have. And then there's the other one where you think you can fix them. That was me, man. I think I can fix everybody because I was, a juvenile delinquent, and I thought, like, hey, I can fix all these dudes. None of them were as bad as I was, but some of them aren't ready, and some of them get in the way. The timetable gets in the way, and it takes up too much of your time. And if that's the case, then you got to move on.
You mentioned some of those guys, turning into leaders, and I know different coaches have different approaches to leadership, or captains. They pick them, the team picks them, they vote on them. What were specifically, like in college? What were some of your approaches to the team captain or the leadership? How did you handle that?
I never had a captain. I thought it was kind of silly when you got 30 some guys and the game is there's so many parts to it, pitching, defense, whatever. And it comes down to sometimes a personality. And then even though you got a really good personality, you might even be a guy that's liked by everybody. It kind of diminishes other players, I think, by hanging captain on them. I did it once. A guy named Rocky Laguna from Yuma, Arizona, just a great kid, was well liked by everybody, had up and down years. I think it was in her 4th or 5th year. He had just shown such a commitment to the program. It wasn't even a starter. And I named him a captain really for Rocky, to try to get Rocky to realize what he had done. He's probably not going to play pro ball very long, but what he had done was really a difference maker. And I named him a captain. And I don't know that I thought through it, but I know I never had a captain, I think, other than Rocky. Somebody call in if I did. I don't know. But I don't know. I just think that why do we designate one person? I don't think that's the way, or 3 people. Or I do believe in like leadership council, a little bit from every group, like a couple seniors, a couple juniors, a couple pitchers, a couple relief pitchers, a couple starting pitchers, that type of thing. And for sure, a couple freshmen. The only rule I have on the leadership council, Dean, is when we have a leadership council meetings, let's say it's 7 or 8 guys, we can only talk about the guys in the room. There's no sense talking about, well, Jimmy here, he's going out every night, and Jimmy wants to leave, or Jimmy he misses home, and Jimmy's, smoking crack or whatever. Okay, so we don't get to do that. We just talk about the guys in the room, and you'd be surprised how that room elevates itself, because you can only say, okay, what do we need to do? If we're the leadership council, what do we need to do? So we talk to each other in that group. And I think that's a better way to do it than have a bitch session about 4 freshmen who, this guy thinks he's all that. And I mean, that's just not effective. How are we going to grow our game? Well, we grow our game and our team in this group. Well, let's make this group better. Let's have the tough conversation right here. I might have got that from you, Dean.
So good.
That sound like I did?
It's genius. Yeah, it must be. It's an interesting point, because you hear from a lot of coaches, they want their players to, hold each other accountable. And I remember being with a program, and the coach called me, and he was pissed off because one of his seniors had lit up a freshman in the weight room, for not doing things right. And what the coach was pissed about, he's like, why don't you hold your frickin' roommate accountable You don't say anything to him, but now you're going to blow up this freshman. So kind of the same thing is, hey, if we're going to get these 8 guys in a room, let's have the conversation with each other and not whine about what so-and-so is not doing. Let's talk to each other that way. So we set that example rather than, asking others. Let me ask you this, just kind of as a follow-up to that one. What's kind of some of your thoughts about getting guys, creating an environment where guys can perform at the high, at their potential, essentially like creating that environment for them to go out and play, go and play at their highest level.
Right. I think I've heard a lot of guys say that practice was harder than the games for them. And I think that there's a competitive component. There's a focus component. Like I'm big in baseball that it's really hard to create the game the way we've done. I mean, we've been taking batting practice, if I think our school system sometimes does this too, but like the car industry, if it ever stayed the same, the way baseball stayed the same, like we'd still be driving, the GTO from the 60s, like you got to keep changing. And we take batting practice because that's what we've always done. There was a time when we always took infield, outfield and I researched where all this came from, and I see why it developed. It was very effective, and it can be still effective. But we just get in these routines and we just do it instead of, looking at practicing with intent and having a meaning behind it. And what's the point here? How does this relate to our baseball standards? How does this relate to our program standards? And then being able to set up a practice competitive and with that intent. You should kind of be mentally exhausted when you're done. Just going through the motions, that drives me crazy. I'd rather sit around and, have fun with them than just go through the motions. I think there's a time to back off that, but there's a time to really get after it mentally about, body control, about understanding, strikes and balls. It sounds so basic, but take it to another level where it's just, coaches used to come up to me. This would make me laugh. They'd come up to me all the time and they'd be like, man, what do you guys teach? How do you get those guys to lay off? How do you guys, you guys have more walks than strikeouts for like 3 years running. How do you do that? And I remember, it was a consistent question, not just one coach or two. I got it all the time. And I thought to myself when I'd walk away, like, how do we do that? I don't know. Good players? I don't know. But I think about what we emphasize. We emphasize strikes and balls. We emphasize take strikes. Hit strikes, take balls, and put yourself in that position and really emphasize it. Chasing is not part of this thing. You're going to chase, you ain't going to play. If the game deals you a walk, you take it. Nah, I'm swinging. I'm aggressive. That's not aggressive. It's like a fighter walking in the ring saying, I'm just going to swing. Well, you're going to probably get knocked out, but have fun. You might get lucky. But I think it's kind of like what your intent is from Jump Street. They know, players knew, if you're going to chase the ball out of the zone and punch out, you ain't going to play, no matter who you are. And this guy's just nuts enough. He's going to do it. He's going to carry out his mission. And I think that's where we kept it simple. I always said, we don't have a pitching coach or a hitting coach. I don't want one. People are like, you're crazy. How can you? In recruiting, it's going to kill you in recruiting because you don't have a pitching coach. You don't have a hitting coach. The players become their own hitting coach. The players become their own pitching coach. Now, I'm telling you, that's not the case. We do have a hitting coach. We do have a pitching coach. More than one, probably. But we just don't want to label that. Well, our hitting coach said this. No. We learned from everybody. I brought in every major league player I could. They'd say whatever they wanted to say. Matt Williams came in one day and said, all I ever want to do is try to pull the ball, hit it as far as I can. And then Billy Miller comes in, batting champion, comes in and said, no, I'm going to use the whole field, stay in the middle of the field. I didn't care what they heard. I'm going to let them process it. But I'm going to stay with strikes and balls. I'm going to stay with flight plan, making sure the guys hit the ball on a straight line, redirect the ball, trying to pull the ball, trying to create action. That's just trouble. Effort, a physical effort is going to create trouble. So, I think you do yourself a favor by not writing down your hitting philosophy or your pitching philosophy or forcing every guy to do the same things. I think you just kind of work it together and you massage it like a piece of clay because it is moldable. And I think you get to a point where there's standards that say, we're not going to punch out. We're not going to chase. You know what I mean? And we're not going to put in bad balls in play. Now, I don't mind a punch out. A guy blows me away with the uptown cheese, and it's just a little too good for my swing right today and right this moment. And he beat me. I saw it a little lower than it was, and it beat me, and I swung underneath it. That's a good punch out. You know what I mean? Guy throws you, cement mixer slider that you've seen all game go down and away, cement mixer in on the hands, and then it just kind of drifts over. Umpire, calls it a strike, and all of a sudden, those are okay strikeouts. And you want me to protect the plate and just push it in play so they can turn two? No. It's like contact is better than miss, but it's constructive, and understanding the game. And I think if you just stay real with them and keep working them, create some good drills, but then switch it up. It's all content based in that what you want. The outcome you want. You want a guy going to the plate feeling like $1 million, clear can be. He got nothing in his head. He's just humming. There's nothing to think about. I'm just going to the plate and I'm going to get mine. And I'm ready every pitch. Umpire call, situation, count, who the guy is on the mound, how great his brother was or how great his velocity is. None of that matters. It's me and you, this pitch, this moment. I'm present. Let's get it on. And if you beat me, I'll be back. I think that's the best way to approach it. And that kind of mentality, your team will pick up on it. If you give them a bunch of pamphlets and a bunch of rules and a bunch of handouts on how good your team is, or they know how good you are. I got story after story, and it's a common thing. Kids come back from college and they call me up and they ask me for some advice. And, he said, I hear this all the time. The coach spent the whole time telling me how good he was and how good the program was and how, giving me statistics and this and that. And he said, just turn me off. I want to connect. I want to be part of it, and I think, this one kid was a kid that loved it and loved the program. And he got to a point where he couldn't break through. He couldn't communicate. And, it was about him not being able to do those things. It wasn't about the program, but then he gets negative on the program, so I had that discussion earlier today.
In terms of, you talk about simplifying it, go to the plate, clear head, just because I know, with these coaches listening, and
there's nobody listening anymore, Dean.
I know they're all checked out.
Like, wow.
I've heard you talk about, how simple you just kept the kind of the rules at ASU, from the first team meeting that you had. You were like, hey man, we got a couple things that we're going to do around here. And I know that was kind of around just keeping it as simple as possible.
Right.
But that also kind of, I think led into the culture there. So what were kind of your rules there? And,
yeah, I mean,
speaks to that.
If there's anybody on the line that was in those rooms those days, they're going to start smiling because they know what I'm going to say. Don't misrepresent the program. And I'm the person that decides whether you did or not. So, that kept them on their toes, and I say, ask me some question, what misrepresents the program, and, about anything they brought up, I said, yeah, potentially, and, yeah, you just kind of leave it. You leave it, not because you don't want to run a tight ship. On contrary, we ran a real tight ship. It's just, there's a lot of nonsense, there's a lot of nonsense. We would drug test kids, and I'm big on drugs and alcohol being just, you shouldn't accept it so much. I mean, I don't think it's cool when your players are telling you, hey, we're going out tonight. Oh God, Johnny had 20 beers and whatever. I mean, I didn't joke about stuff like that, like maybe because it's sensitive to my life, but, and what I've seen, but I just felt like it was our responsibility to help them live and make decisions, big decisions, not just to follow the crowd and to know that they could have a great time. I used to tell them, you guys don't know how to party. You want to learn how to party? I can show you how to party, but it doesn't mean excessive drinking or excessive drugs or, hooking up with the wrong people. And I mean, it's making good decisions. And I tried to talk openly about that. It was no joke. I didn't want to joke around about drugs and alcohol. And I just feel like we accept that too much. And we think, well, they're in college. They're supposed to do that. Even the parents, well, they're in college, they're supposed to do that. Well, maybe. I don't love it. I just don't. Nothing good can happen. Like, tell me what could happen. What if you could have one kid stop, and because of your influence, and he sees that you don't, and he sees that you don't really joke about it. What if you help one kid stop that could have otherwise made a different decision and maybe change his life, his kid's life, and who knows? So I believe in that. Maybe I'm old fashioned or whatever, but nobody can give me a reason why. To be a good socializer, perfect, but just know that you got to have some limits, and the dangers of what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and I think that's huge, man. I love the fact that you brought up the drugs and alcohol aspect, because for all the college coaches in here and pro guys, that is real. Like, it's right in front of us, and from personal experience and from being in those situations and family experience, like, it is real, and it is nothing to really joke about, especially when you have family members saying, oh, it's okay, Johnny's in college. It's all good to go downtown Reno and do your thing. Like, nothing good comes out of that ever. But we had a question come in regarding leadership, and it's as far as your athletes. So Coach asked, any advice on getting your most talented player to be more of a vocal leader, or is it sufficient enough for them to just lead by example, kind of do their thing and set the tone that way?
Yeah, I'm big on this. I'll tell you, a lot of guys aren't going to like my answer, but I spent a lot of time thinking about this type of stuff. A lot of guys were studying the mechanics of the swing, and I just said, hey, I know it's going to change in 2 years, so there's no sense. No, but I do enjoy studying the mechanics of the swing. But I spent a lot of time on this type of thing, and a guy needs to be more vocal. Craig Counsell, freshman at Notre Dame, his girlfriend, who's now his wife of, I think, 20, almost 25 years. Michelle will tell you that I called him the mute because he didn't speak. So I made him take ground balls in the fall and yell mine or I got it every time he took a fungo. And if it wasn't loud enough, I made him do it again. So he's out there taking 50 fungos and yelling mine. And I'm sure the kid was embarrassed. I'm sure he got the point after day 5 or 6. But, I was trying to make him more vocal. What it did that I didn't realize, because I was an idiot, but what it did is it made the other guys on the team really appreciate him more, because he did it. He put up with my nonsense, and he just kept yelling mine. And even though that's just not who he was, but the point of it is the other players came to him and kind of said, hey, man, we love who you are, man. You can be quiet, whatever. And I think I created a connection by being a jerk or demanding something that was kind of had really no purpose. But I was trying to get him to stand up and speak more. I think that's dangerous. I think leadership is by how you handle it day in and day out. You don't have to say any words. Enthusiasm and energy in your body, yeah, that's really important. And to know the importance of that, and to know what that feels like. And that's also tough to talk about for some people, but I think it's worth it to bring it up to people. Like, hey, man, I don't see your energy. I think just be aware. That's a great word in coaching for me, and leadership for me is awareness. Just be aware how that might come off. People used to tell me when I'm 28-year-old head coach thinking I'm good. And I'm already 6 or 7 years in as a head coach because I started so young. And it's like, people say, hey, man, you really come off kind of abrasive. You're always looking for the edge. You're always looking. Sometimes, you just need to chill. And I heard it. I didn't necessarily do it right away, but I heard it. And by the time I got to ASU, sometimes I'd take the pendulum all the way to the other side and try to be Mr. Nice Guy. That didn't work either. So I'm like, I'm better off being, Joe, the hard ass. And then, you have to find that pendulum's got to swing a little bit, and you got to find that medium where you can kind of genuinely turn it on and off and when it's appropriate. But I don't think making the players, and like, I went to a program a couple years ago, great program. I love this head coach. I didn't know him very well, but I love him. And it was like super enthusiastic, like all day long during practice. And I was like getting sick. I was just like, Dino, you were standing right next to me. And I was like, God, this is so non-genuine. These kids are forced to do this. It's become a habit, but it's not from their heart, because it's 31 degrees and nobody wants to be here right now. We're in the fall, I think. And it's like, it's an inner squad or something. And it's like unhealthy chatter, I called it. And I think I spoke to the team about it actually, and maybe offended the heck out of them, but that's never been a problem of mine. Anyway, it's like, I just want you to be enthusiastic in the right, genuine way. And I want you to understand the value of that energy and that spirit. And if we can get to that point, I think then you're going to get what you want. The leadership kind of comes by pulling that kid in. Maybe he's a real quiet kid and he's a really good player, but he's kind of to himself, does his own thing, doesn't reach out to others. Maybe you give him a project. Hey man, I'd like you to, I'll buy you guys dinner on, Tuesday night if you take so-and-so to dinner, this young freshman, and just open up to him, and he'll do it. Or maybe, and just subtly give him roles, not to speak if he doesn't want to, but just give him roles of, like how he can help out. Maybe you ask his opinion on some things and then don't ask him to do anything with it, and then I'll tell you, once you give your opinion, you're a little more invested and you want to see it work out that way, especially when it's about something you're involved with. And I think it's a better way than to force him, Count still hates me today for making him do that. He reminds me from time to time.
Now you get to work hand in hand with them.
What's that?
Go ahead, Dino.
No, I was just so coach, as we start to wrap this up, let me ask you this in terms of dealing with failure and that kind of thing. I want to hear from you. What's something about the game on the side of like mindset, culture, leadership, these things we're talking about? What's the part of it right now that's got you the most fascinated, the most interested in it, the part that you're, really like taking in right now?
Well, I mean, the difference between being good and great in the big leagues is all mentality. And people will argue with that, especially offensively. People will argue, well, if I had Bellinger's swing. Now, Bellinger went through a lot of stuff to get to this maturity level, to get to this point in the game. And these guys work at the game. Yelich really works at the game, and he works at his mindset. And really, Yelich works at not being affected by anything. You can't rattle him. He doesn't get rattled. And it's such a gift. And he knows it's one of his powerful weapons that he responds. And it's not an emotional response. It's just consistent. What fascinates me is how these guys handle all this and still revert back to little childish ways sometimes of fear and worrying about the wrong things and justifying worrying about the wrong things. It's interesting. Sometimes they don't put a lot of people around them that can challenge them because they don't want to confront themselves. They don't. They're in a position. A lot of them just want to hang on. Hey, I made $5 million this year. I don't want to lose that. I'm not risking changing my swing. I'm not risking doing something a little different. So there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of guys that are stuck and could really use an opening up and an awareness. And that's why we emphasize connection, because they're going to get it from each other. You don't get it when a coach forces you to get it. But it's also amazing how talented these guys are. It's really amazing. Really amazing. All of us thought at one point we played in the minor leagues and we're looking around. We're like, yeah, I could have. And then you get here and then you see the guys day in and day out. And you're like, I don't think so. I don't think I could have. But I think the manager's role. Everybody says the manager's role is going away because the general managers are building the teams and making decisions. And I hear stories of people saying that the general manager's making the lineup. I don't think that's happening in too many places, but I think the general managers are really, really smart dudes, man. They're really smart dudes, really smart. And they deserve a lot of credit for knowing the game, and they dedicate themselves to the game far more than any manager does it's 365 for them. For the manager, he gets an off season and not much of one, but you get one. And the manager's just on the bus, managing on the bus. That general manager's at 30,000 feet and he's trying to take care of everything in baseball operations. So I've learned to respect the general manager's leadership and some of those guys that people criticize. Oh, he never played baseball in his life. Most of them have played a little bit and get enough to know that you know, you don't have to have a heart attack to be a good surgeon, a good heart surgeon. So a lot of them haven't played the game, but they can perform surgery. Really, really smart guys, and we got to be willing to talk their language in a way and understand their language, if nothing more, and be able to change our way of relating to them. So
we
lose the video here?
Good. I'll ask you one more and then let Austin wrap it up, Coach. Just because you mentioned, Yelich, and you mentioned him, just the guy just never gets rattled. What do you attribute some of that to? What have you seen him work on? Because that might help some of these coaches too. They got young players. I know there's a couple of players on here too, but that emotional intelligence, the ability to not get rattled when the shit hits the fan. What's some of his process, or what have you seen him work on?
Yeah, what's funny about Christian? First of all, he's a great human being, and he's very consistent. He doesn't worry about a lot of the stuff you'd think people worry about. Fame doesn't mean a whole lot to him. He enjoys some of it. He realizes the downside of it because it hits so quick, and it's tough for him to say no. But he's pretty level-headed. He's really grounded. His mom and him are really, really close in a real healthy way. She's really bright, and I think that Christian just is manifest like, hey, I really love baseball. I want to be a baseball player, and I want to be a good baseball player. He agreed to stay with the Brewers. He's just signed a big contract, and he could have made a lot more money on the open market, but he decided this is me. He has no connection to Milwaukee before he was traded here, but he just found a home in terms of like, hey, I fit in here, and this is me. Not real pretentious, doesn't have a bunch of drills he doesn't adhere to any magic potion. It's really his balance. His whole body's total balance is really important to him, and he works at it. He actually takes front flips, like most of his preparation. There's a lot of just front flips, front toss, whatever you call it. And it doesn't. It for him, it's more mental. It's the feel of it. He knows where he needs to be, where his feet need to be, how he needs to feel closed, but light on his feet, and at the same time grounded. So I tell him all the time, man, you're full of contradictions. But he's a kid who really knows himself. He's open to things, but not easy. He's not going to listen to what everybody says. And he's also paying attention, and he is a great teammate. He's not going to tolerate. He's not a big talker. He's not going to tolerate nonsense from other people trying to screw up what we got going. So he's really special, man. Really special.
Yeah, and it's got to be great to be able to work hand in hand with somebody like that, to where you can really see excellence right in front of you, and how he displays himself on and off the field. It's absolutely incredible. But we'll be conscious of your time and everybody else's time in here as well. I want to wrap up with one last question. Now, you talk about a lot of those turning points in your career as a coach, back when you were coaching then. What is one piece of advice you would have to, say, 25-year-old Coach Murphy, back when before you really changed? What piece of advice would you say for the rest of the crew in here?
Yeah, the one thing I never did that I regretted, and I had to learn the hard way, is I never really had a mentor that I coached under for a long period of time, or somebody that really taught me, grabbed me and said, "Oh, Murph, you don't need to say that," or whatever it might be. I didn't have that, and I say find one of those guys. And then I think another thing that I wish I would have known is just do more listening. Don't think you're good because your record's real good, because you won the conference or you won Coach of the Year or any of that nonsense. Just really strive to be open for growth and see what you can do better. Ask the tough question. Ask your peers, what do you really dislike about what I do? How do I come off? Ask those questions. Get the real answers. They might be wrong. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, you hear it and it's good for us. It's willing to hear those things and dismiss what is probably not true, and grab onto something that you've probably had an awareness of. Like I probably understood I was that way, and I don't really need to be that way. So I think that's what I would do. And you're an inch from the top and an inch from the bottom, man. You could be out of this beautiful profession, or you could be in the big leagues, and it's like, you guys can tell after listening to this, like, you don't have to have a certain level of intelligence. You don't have to have a certain level of how good you played. You know, it's been well proven the guys that play really good sometimes don't know how to say it, don't know how to teach it. But I think for sure that you know, I got to open my door here a little bit. I got to tell these guys to wait for me 1 second. They're leaving this field and it's locked up. I'm gonna wrap it up.
I'm just wrapping this up. I need like 1 minute. I'll meet you down there. But if I turn my car on, I'll lose the video. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Great seeing you, Camp. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I think it's really important, you know, like we are what we are, man. We're not our record. You know what I mean? I joke with you about 1,000 wins, but we're not that. That's not who we are. But it's like those accolades and what we did and what we didn't do, we're fortunate to be part of it. It's a group, you know, we just go as far as the group goes. You know, we stir that soup and get as much as you can out of those guys, feel good about what you did. And, you know, keep moving forward, keep looking for opportunities. You know, I could have stayed at Notre Dame for a long, long time. I don't even know why I left. It probably wasn't, I probably didn't have a good reason, but I'm glad I did because I learned something. I didn't want to leave ASU, and the way it all worked out, I had to leave. And guess what? You know, I was on a roll. I mean, we were rolling, you know, 03 to 09, I think 100 some weeks in the top 10, they said, and, you know, hadn't been swept in 10 years or something, setting records, doing this, top 5 every year, Omaha every other year. All of a sudden I'm out. And it's like, poor me. But the truth was the best thing that ever happened to me, because then it forced me to grow again. Maybe not when I wanted to grow, but it forced me. So when you lose your jobs or things aren't going your way, hey, pick up your boots and let's go, man. Go to the next stop, make a difference, learn from it, evaluate yourself, and you know, you'll start to believe in yourself when you believe in those standards. And don't try to do too much. Don't make it about you. Be a nice ingredient in that soup.
It's incredible advice, Murph, and just hitting on that, man. Just our identities were made more of who we are rather than what we do, and the results that we get from what we're doing. So I think that's huge, man. Thanks for sharing that with us and taking the time out of your day, man, and being able to just provide some wisdom for us and taking that time to sit on here, chat with us, and just talk more about that leadership. It was really cool to have you on, man. And I know we're very thankful for this as well.
I didn't hear that last part, but guess what? It's really been a pleasure being on, man. I don't know if any of it made sense, but I enjoyed it. So hope somebody else did too.
It was huge. Dino, you got anything?
No, man. I just appreciate it, Murph. I'll check in with you, man. Love you too, man. All you guys for checking in with us.
It was nice talking to you too, man.
Absolutely, Murph. Appreciate you hopping on, man.
All righty.
Take care of that audio over there.
Hey, look, listen, man. You made me strain. I'm gonna send you a bill. You made me strain. I can't hear a thing you guys are saying, but
let's go. Well, good to see you guys, man, and everybody that popped on here. Thank you for taking the time. There's incredible college coaches, professional coaches in here, taking the time to continue to learn and grow. So your support means a lot to not only us, but for your programs and everything going on. So we thank you as well. And if you guys ever need anything on our end, please reach out. Phone call, text, anything. I know it's a tough time for a lot of us going through this, not playing in spring, which is really weird. But the best thing we can do is unite together. No matter where we are, no matter what program, no matter what level, no matter what age, continue to unify together and encourage each other every single day. So I just want to throw that in there because I know a lot of buddies who are coaching right now who are struggling, whether it's financially, physically, mentally, emotionally. I just wanted to add that in there. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. We'll be back, man. Coach Hill, San Diego.
Coach Hill, and then we got Coach Green next week. So coming up next week. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
Legendary. See you guys. Have a good night. Appreciate you.